The Super Bowl is set, and the NFL got exactly what they wanted, and the refs made sure it happened. Another Bears head coach, another bashing of the Green Bay Packers. You think at some point a Bears head coach would talk about the Super Bowl and not the rival they can't seem to beat? And which coaches next year are already on the hot seat? I got my top 5 list, and I'm going to see if the old man agrees. That and more on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who is actually dressing his age today, my dad, Tim. Is it dressing your age, or have you finally embraced the Ohio State culture with the sweater vest?
No, I embraced the Luke Fickle culture with the vest.
Where'd he learn that from?
Doesn't matter. He wears them in Wisconsin.
Coach Tressel.
Stop it.
At the Ohio State University.
Who, by the way, after bringing in $292 million, they're still $30 million in debt.
You sent me that? I'm really confused by it. I'm confused, like, is that the school? Is that the football team?
Football program.
The football program's $30 million in debt?
Until the next ESPN, I think, is signing a contract for the playoffs for $7.8 billion. Just for the playoffs.
Yeah. And we'll be there again. It's interesting, that number of 30 million, because here's the reality situation, right? NIL, the school is not supposed to be paying players. Not supposed to be. And their roster cost them between 22 and 30 million dollars, and you have a deficit. Mike, I just don't know, if you make $292 million in a year, how you could be in debt. I mean, it's like a presidential campaign.
I got to be honest with you. NIL could be the end of college sports as we know it. I know for a fact what I predicted a long time ago. The NCAA is no longer going to be in football.
There needs to be rules. There's going to be salary caps at some point.
They've got to put up some guardrails because it's getting out of line. And what's going to happen is track, lacrosse, women's hockey in most places are not revenue sports. It is in Wisconsin, but
lacrosse is not a revenue sport.
No, but women's hockey
Neither
is.
Track.
Women's hockey is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Kind of.
No, it is. They sell out the place.
They do.
They're one of the few places that actually does. It was like Iowa when Caitlin Clark was there. It was a revenue sport.
Which is fair. But back to your point, I mean, I don't understand how they're going to be hurt by this. All it is money coming in that they can spend on other sports.
Yeah, but
NIL, who cares?
All the other athletes are going to want to be paid too.
Okay. Sucks to be you.
I'm just saying.
This is capitalism. This is market value.
Yeah, and the universities are more like socialism, where if we do for one, we have to do for everybody.
We don't. We definitely don't.
They're going to have an attitude change.
That's bringing in money for your sport.
Uh-huh.
And let's be honest. I mean, the only people that are really going to make a lot of money, in my opinion, are the swimmers that end up going to the Olympics. Because you win gold medals, you're going to cash in.
Well, some track athletes do that as well.
Well, exactly.
Carl Lewis would have made money back in the day.
Yeah. There's quite a few of them that will make money off of this. But again, the university is not supposed to be paying these players, so this shouldn't even be a problem.
But it will be.
It's boosters. So find a very rich person that likes lacrosse.
Look, let's face it. The football programs in all of these major schools funds everything else they've got.
Here's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is I want to see if any of these kids are getting paid by these gambling sites, be it DraftKings or FanDuel.
Or US Bets or any of the other ones.
Any of the other ones. That's where the problem is going to start to come in. Because if you see a college athlete or a professional athlete, to be honest with you, but like the NFL and baseball have really gotten this tied down at this point where they're not allowed. They're trying to. It's going to get out of control. But if you see any of these college kids starting to show up on, DraftKings websites, their pictures up there or something as a sponsorship, I mean, not only does that affect the integrity of college football, which I think has been vastly affected at this point, but what it also does is you're not going to get drafted in the NFL at that point.
There's got to be a brick wall. You've got to put a brick wall. It's like when Wrigley Field was talking about putting a casino up on the top of.
Right.
You just can't do that. When the Ricketts were going to put one on top of Wrigley, you can't do that.
By the way, I'm going to have a Frenchie Squirrel moment here for a second because this is starting to bother me. Obviously, I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I'm really getting sick and tired of having all this money in Chicago and acting like the Milwaukee Brewers. Like, we are getting these second and third tier players all the time. And
okay.
I'm tired of the Ricketts saying, well, we're barely making a profit. Bullshit.
Okay.
That 2016 World Series made you more money than first world countries.
Yeah, and they sold off the team. You know what the Ricketts are acting like?
The Tribune.
Every other owner that the Cubs have ever had.
Right. They're the Tribune.
Cry poor. We can't do this. We don't make enough money. Blah, blah, blah. You're one of the richest franchises in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, the Brewers actually spend more and go and get players.
Right.
Than the Cubs do. And the Cubs should be out there competing with the Dodgers.
I'm just tired of billionaires sitting here saying, well, we're not making a profit. Well, you're a billionaire, so that's not true.
They're all
You're
billionaires.
definitely making a profit on this team. You're making a lot of profit on this team because we all buy gear. We all do this. We all support this. You sell out your stadium pretty much every single game. I don't want to hear you're not making a profit. And by the way, you just gave your manager the richest contract in history. And I knew this was going to happen.
They shouldn't win as long as Council's there.
I knew this was going to happen, though, is you have Council who managed a team on a Brewers budget who is expanding their budget beyond really what a small market team normally does. And you're like, we'll just pay the manager a lot and we'll win with players we don't have to pay for. It's Moneyball, again, destroying the game. I know that was a complete squirrel moment, but I was reading articles today and it just got me so upset.
Pitchers and catchers report in a week or two. And I want to come back to baseball at that point because I want to talk about some things I saw Goose Gossage say because he makes some really good points and we need to talk about it in depth. We don't have time today, but I have a trivia question for you to start the show off with.
Okay.
Two things happened today. It's the anniversary and today's the 28th when we record this.
You and I both woke up.
That too. One is one of the saddest days in U.S. history.
Is this the 28th or 29th?
Whatever today.
Today's 28th.
Okay, then it's today. The anniversary is today. And one was the happiest moment in a state's history that set it on the course up until today. So what's the saddest thing that happened today?
I don't know.
Think about it. It's the 39th anniversary.
In the world?
39th anniversary of this very sad event.
Like most people would know this, right?
Everyone would know this.
Okay. I didn't know if this was like some personal thing.
One of the saddest moments in U.S. history.
On January 28th?
Mm-hmm. It was a cold morning.
It's January 28th.
Yeah. 39th anniversary of the Challenger.
Oh.
Disaster.
Really?
Which blows me away, considering next year will be the 40th anniversary of that thing.
It blew everybody away, especially the people on the show.
Yeah, it never should have launched. It was
bad joke. Too soon. 39 years is not long enough.
And what happened on this day? Well, let's see.
I don't know, but that was a sad way to start the show.
I know, but I wanted to acknowledge it. Happiest day, 64 years ago.
I wasn't alive for any of this.
You know this one. It made the state, set it on the course of greatness, and people still talk about it. On this
64 years ago?
Yeah. Would have been 1959. So 65 years ago.
What state?
This one.
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Well, 1848, we became a state in Wisconsin, so it's not that.
Think about it.
Well, it's not the Braves winning because they won in 57.
Correct.
And and they also definitely wouldn't have won a World Series in January.
No.
Is this one Lombardi?
Today is the anniversary of Vince Lombardi being hired as the coach and general manager for the Green Bay Packers. Set us on a course of greatness, except for the 20 years after he was gone that I had to live through when they didn't win a thing.
They got to the playoffs once. I think once.
Yeah, once. Don Horn was was it Don Horn or Scott Hunter that was a quarterback? John Brockington was a running back. It was never going to happen. It was a very sad 29 years.
Now I'm just thinking about the Challenger.
All the conspiracy theories about it.
They're still alive.
That's one of the conspiracy theories that we're not going to get into on this.
I went down a whole rabbit hole on those people still being alive, and it's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, I've seen that. I know what you're talking about because I've been down that rabbit hole too.
So let's talk about this. Why would they want to fake the deaths of all those people? Why would they want to stop the space program? Because essentially that's what it did.
It did for 2 years.
Stopped the space program.
It did for 2 years.
Well, it never really recovered. We've never invested in the space program that much again.
No, I mean, they redid, obviously the shuttle program got relaunched again, but it wasn't the same.
And it's also not the first time that the space program would have faked something.
They landed on the moon.
They did, just not the first time.
Yes, the first time they landed on the damn moon. Stop it. I don't even go there. That was one of the best days of my life. I remember that day like it was yesterday.
And it was staged.
It was not staged. They were on the damn moon.
They were on a set of the moon.
You do this just to get under my skin. And
we 100% went to the moon. I'm with you, but this is too much fun. You want to talk about flat Earth next? Or center Earth? That one's my favorite. Or that Michael Jackson actually died during the 1989 Pepsi.
Why don't we talk about Jerry Jones's very bizarre press conference today?
You want to go to that conspiracy?
Yes.
Got it.
How long do you think Brian Schottenheimer is going to be the coach?
Well, I'm going to tease that one later because I'm going to talk about that. And so I don't want to wreck it for now, but he's on a very short leash. A very short leash.
For Jerry to say, people accuse me of not taking a risk. This is the biggest risk.
It wasn't even him taking a risk. It was me not getting out of my comfort zone.
Right.
Well, this is way out of my comfort zone. No, it's not. This guy was inside your building. He is very much within your comfort zone. He was the OC. You've known Brian Schottenheimer since he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not something that's outside of your comfort zone. You know who this guy is through and through, so that's a lie. What happened is you thought you were bringing McCarthy back.
And McCarthy told you
no.
And flip.
Right. McCarthy told you, I'm not coming back. I'm not doing this again. You should have signed me earlier in the season. And so he scrambled.
Or let me interview with the Bears when they called me.
Right. But he wanted to keep him. He's like, I'm going to stop this because we're going to sign him as our coach. And McCarthy's like, I'm not coming back, dude.
Right.
This isn't happening. All alleged. We don't know that for a fact, but we're pretty smart. And I'm guaranteeing that's what happened.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all the coaches are gone. And the other issue is nobody wants to coach in Dallas anymore. It does not have the allure that it once did.
The cachet of being the coach of America's team hasn't been there for the last 20 years.
They're officially 34 years without being in an NFC championship.
Yeah. And anytime Dallas has been relevant in the since Jerry's owned the team, what has always been the constant when they've been great? The coach was ahead of the team. Jerry was in the background. Jimmy Johnson called the shots. Tuna called the shots. Bill Parcells. And then Jerry steps in.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry Jones, to be fair, is about to be an Emmy-winning actor.
At 85.
Hey, did you see the speech?
Yes.
On that show?
It was great.
It was one of the greatest speeches that apparently he just came up with. That was all improv. He just went for it. He had tears in his eyes.
Good for him.
The press conference was something he probably should have prepared for and not went off the cuff. I'm excited for Brian.
You know why he cried?
Why?
He was thinking of the Cowboys the last 29 years.
100%. Listen, I'm hoping Brian Schottenheimer has a lot of success. You have a team here that, as long as they can get a running back in the draft or free agency, you have to have a running back. That's why Dak got killed. It's why the passing game wasn't as good. You can't set up a passing game without a running game. The defense, I don't know what you're going to do at that point.
I don't think they have that great of a roster right now. They've got pieces.
But
they don't have a cohesive team. Brian Schottenheimer, to me, is like hiring Don Shula's kid when they did. It just didn't work out well.
Or Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, yeah, that's true. He was also a son of. I mean, maybe Brian Schottenheimer is going to be better than Marty. But Marty was a all-time really good coach.
He was 20-1, 26, and was what,
That's
5-12 or something like that in the
That's
playoffs?
why I said he was one of the all-time really good coaches. He wasn't great by any means.
Had his chances because he was Browns, right?
He was Browns. He was Kansas City when Montana was there, I believe.
Was he?
Yeah, I think he coached 4 teams. I always remember NFL films where he's looking at his team and going, you've got to have a gleam in your eye. I'm like, excuse me? You have to have toothpaste in your eye? It's the first thing I thought of was Gleam toothpaste.
I remember him with the Chargers all those years. That's how I remember Marty Schottenheimer.
When I think of Marty Schottenheimer, I don't think of the Chargers. I always think of Air Coryell with the Chargers.
Which is fair. I didn't know. I wasn't alive for either of them.
No, you weren't.
So
Marty was a good coach, but he could never get over the hump.
he couldn't.
So
But back to the Cowboys, it's going to be an interesting run because I forgot the defense is actually going to be, I think it's going to be solid next year because they just hired Eberflus as the defensive coordinator.
which is a good hire.
A very good hire. He's a very good defensive coordinator. It's a matter of getting the offense. Who's going to call the plays? Because Schottenheimer didn't call the plays last year. So what's this offense going to look like? Are you going to bring in an offensive coordinator that's going to call the plays? Are you going to do it? I think he said he was going to call the plays.
And where are you going to get all these coaches? Because this is at the end of the programs.
There's still some available.
There's some available.
I mean, you'll have people that get promoted from both Kansas City and Philadelphia. I mean, there's going to be some more poaching going on. That part they'll figure out.
That's true. And
I hope he's successful, but I think this is going to be...
I think this is more Dallas being Dallas.
But for Jerry to come out and say, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. No, you're not. This guy was, again, in your building. This is a guy you know where you will still have control. Honestly, him stepping outside of his comfort zone was hiring Mike McCarthy.
Yes, because he wasn't going to have control over that. I would have respected him more if he would have waited until the Super Bowl was over and go and grab Kellen Moore to bring somebody back in that's got more of a pedigree than Brian Schottenheimer has.
This is a quick move. It seems like a panic move.
Yeah.
But it could work out. We'll see. He's betting on pedigree right now. It's buying Smarty Jones's son is what he just did. You're completely betting on your horse
and how did
based
that
off of how the horse won before.
That's never worked before. I mean, maybe he'll be better than his dad.
Has it never worked before?
Not that I can think of.
Honestly, is there never a son that has performed better than their dad, who was a legend?
Ken Griffey Jr.
In the NFL coaching.
No.
Not players.
Not that I can think of. I mean, Shanahan hasn't won a Super Bowl.
He hasn't won anything yet.
So he'd be as close, I think.
I think you're right. You let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it, since we're talking about coaches.
And leave comments, by the way. We love the comments.
Well, it
Especially
depends.
when you rip on Kyle.
I don't like those. I don't like those.
I love those
at all.
I enjoy them.
I'm sure you do. People get personal sometimes, but that's okay. We'll take the comments anyway. I can handle it. But remember, you're wrong, not me. I haven't been wrong once on this entire show. Not once.
Really?
Not once.
Okay.
Find the clips.
Okay.
I'm sure it's out there.
That's like Jack Nicklaus never 3-putted because he didn't allow himself to even think about a 3-putt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, never happens.
Okay.
And if you have to, you chip. You know? You may miss, but it doesn't count as a putt. I wanted to ask you a question here because we've got a lot of head coaches just got hired, right?
One job opening left, right?
New Orleans Saints, which I think will be Mike McCarthy. Makes too much sense.
They'd be foolish if they didn't. He's the best coach available.
100%. Or Deion Sanders to New Orleans, which would be the story of all the stories. I wanted to talk about coaches that were already in positions this year and who has the hottest seat coming in to 2025. I have my top 5 list.
You left somebody off.
And I want you to tell me what you think about this right here.
Okay.
Number 5, hottest seat in the NFL for 2025, Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns.
He's begging to be fired.
He's taking back the call playing, which is never or play calling, not call playing, which is always a sign there's trouble.
Yeah.
always a sign that there's trouble. Why he ever gave up play calling, I don't know, considering he's known as such a great play caller. He's been a guy that he's not, talk about a guy that hasn't gotten a fair shake.
He's in a no-win situation as long as Deshaun Watson is the quarterback.
Well, he's not playing next year. Deshaun Watson, you have to imagine he's done. He re-tore an Achilles.
I know. And that's the best news the Browns could hear, because where are they drafting?
They are drafting number 2 overall.
So they can get a quarterback.
They can. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, but I don't know if there's a... I'm not a big Cam Ward guy, personally.
I think he's the best quarterback I've seen in the draft so far.
Shedeur's there.
Yeah.
The most underrated quarterback in the draft is Will Howard.
Says the Ohio State fanboy.
6'4", 240.
Uh-huh. How many Ohio State quarterbacks have done anything?
1.
And how did he do this year?
Half.
How did he do this year?
Went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He regressed.
You know how many quarterbacks didn't go to the playoffs? And you have Jalen Milroe, who is Whopper Junior Hands 2.0.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, explain that now, because new people are watching. They don't know what Whopper Junior Hands means.
Kenny Pickett has 8.5-inch hands.
Same size as mine, just for the record.
If you remember the commercials back in the day when you had the Whopper Junior coming out, the guy had tiny hands, and the joke was he had a burger that made his hands feel bigger. And so Kenny Pickett has always been nicknamed Whopper Junior Hands because his hands are too small to hold an NFL football.
That was proven in a game where he did play in Philadelphia. Cold weather, couldn't hold on to the ball.
And we did a whole test, one of our first episodes actually,
Mm-hmm.
where we had a ball, NFL ball. You have 8.5-inch hands. We showed what it looked like. I have 9-inch hands, which is still hard to grip a football. It really is. An NFL-sized football pumped the way it's supposed to be. It's hard to grip. Jalen Milroe, 8.6-inch hands.
But Cleveland's going to have options to draft a quarterback if they want to.
I don't think there's a quarterback here you draft.
Well, if it were me, I would draft whoever, no matter what the Titans do. And they may draft a quarterback, they may not. If I'm Cleveland, I'm drafting Travis Hunter.
He won't be available. Travis
at
Hunter's
number
going
2
overall. Travis Hunter's going, unless they take the edge rusher from Penn State. I'm forgetting his name.
No. Tennessee may take a quarter. Yeah, they may take a quarterback.
They're not taking a quarterback.
Well, they're not going to go with Will Levis.
Yes, they are.
I think that'd be a mistake. He hasn't shown a thing.
He hasn't.
These teams always panic and they draft a quarterback number 1.
I don't think they're drafting a quarterback. I think they're either going to go with Travis Hunter or the edge rusher from Penn State.
Travis Hunter is the best athlete to be in any draft.
He
literally can play both sides of the ball. And if I'm Tennessee or Cleveland, whoever gets him, he's playing both sides.
Yes, 100%. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but Kevin Stefanski is my number 5. I think no matter what happens, if they end up as a top 10 pick again next year, he's out. My number 4, Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers is on a very hot seat right now in Green Bay.
No, he's not.
Let me explain it. You have a new president coming in.
Not until July.
Right? He's going to be the head coach this year.
Yes.
He's going to be the head coach of 2025. But if you look at it, we've talked about this. I've gone off on this, so I'm going to save everybody here. He really has missed the playoffs 3 years in a row because the 7th seed didn't exist until the last 2 years, and the Packers have been the 7th seed both times. They had a good game against Dallas where Dallas really kind of choked, and then they got blown out this year.
Well, and they lost the last 3 in a row.
Right. And so in reality, they really haven't made the playoffs. It's clear from watching how they interact and hearing interviews, the GM and Matt LaFleur don't get along.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't think they do. I think they very much disagree on the roster, and I think there's 2 big egos there that are colliding.
Well, and here's what's got to happen. Say we're this time next year, and say the Packers are a 7 seed again if they get in. All right? You've got Ed Policy, the new president of the Packers, son of 49ers GM, legendary GM Carmen Policy. You can't continue with the silos that the Packers have, where Matt LaFleur reports independently to Mark Murphy right now. Gutekunst reports independently to Murphy right now. And, oh, by the way, the cap guru reports separately. That can't continue.
No.
And if we're this time next year and the Packers haven't done much, absolutely LaFleur will be out the door, or he'll clean house completely and get rid of Goody too.
Yeah.
Because Goody,
One draft.
he's been really bad.
He's had one good draft.
And was it good? I mean, when you're looking at some of these wide receivers they've got, they didn't progress this year at all.
5 starters from one draft is a good draft.
It is, but really, when you look at the great players from that draft, the tight ends.
Yeah, I'm with you
I don't
here.
think the wide receivers have panned out at all.
I don't either. We need to fix that. We'll see what he does in the offseason. He's also had some really good signings. Don't forget, we got Xavier McKinney and why am I forgetting our running backs? Josh Jacobs.
Sure, that was great signings. He's got to do it again this year and either get Devontae Adams, or if they stay in the New York with Aaron Rodgers, go and get Garrett Wilson.
Right. You have to upgrade the receiver group. You need a number one receiver.
Well, you need a mentor.
We're talking about not needing a number one receiver is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If the Packers do not perform well this year, especially if Jordan Love regresses, Matt LaFleur is gone. It's time for a new coach. Number 3.
Hold on. One more thing. I don't know that you need a number one. What you need is a guy you can rely on third down. That's your safety valve.
Yeah, you know what that's called?
Not necessarily. I mean, is Travis Kelce a number one, or is he the safety valve?
He's the tight end.
Patrick Mahomes.
I consider that the number one option. You need that safety valve that is your number one option, be it a tight end or a wide receiver, whatever it may be.
Okay.
You need a guy where you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it, and he's going to find a way to be open.
And he's going to run a good route, which Packer receivers are terrible at
Correct.
right now.
I think Tucker Kraft has a chance to be a star, but I don't think they're utilizing him correctly. And that's where Matt LaFleur has to figure that out. He needs to have one guy. I could go on. I went on my spiel.
He also needs to do something to address his in-game play calling.
He can't. I mean, he can't do it.
We've talked about the Packers before.
Number 3 on the hot seat, Brian Daboll of the New York Giants.
How can you say that after they're going to get a quarterback this year, possibly?
He hasn't won. He's been there, 4 years now? 4 years now? Hasn't shown any type of progress. You're the number 3 overall pick this year. You can't come into your 3rd or 4th year as a coach and have the number 3 overall pick. You just can't.
He was saddled with Daniel Jones as his quarterback.
I understand that, and that's why he still is the head coach. But you need to show progression this year. You're getting your quarterback now.
Who's he going to
be
get?
A big part of that conversation. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold.
You've said that before.
I really do. I don't think they're going to take anybody in this draft. I think they're going to focus offensive line in the draft.
If I'm the Giants, there's no way after watching what Darnold did the last 2 weeks.
Well, then you got Russell Wilson out there. You got Justin Fields out there. It's going to be a free agent quarterback.
Okay, Justin Wilson is never going to start in the NFL.
Justin Wilson?
Or
Justin
Fields. I put them together. They'd be a great quarterback.
Yeah.
They did.
I mean, technically, Justin Wilson did start for the Steelers this year.
Justin Fields is a backup someplace. His days of starting is done.
I'm not arguing with you on that.
Russell Wilson, boy, I don't know what Pittsburgh is going to do. They may re-sign him, but he's not your answer.
Sam Darnold's going to the Giants. Gives you the best chance to win. He's a bridge quarterback. You wait until next year, or you get somebody later, be it a Quinn Ewers, be it a Will Howard, be it a Dart from Ole Miss. There's a lot of good guys out there that are going to fall. I think the best quarterback in this draft is going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. I really do. Shedeur Sanders has a chance to be a stud. He really does. Other than that, I think you're going to find some gems later on because they're not being projected the way that they need to be. So I think they're still going to draft a quarterback. Don't get me wrong.
Will Howard is a 2nd round pick.
2nd or 3rd. He's projected 4th by some.
Yeah,
I think he's going to shoot up the boards.
He will.
Late
because
first.
He'll look great in the shorts at the combine if he does it, or his individual workouts.
And he looked great all season.
They always love these guys that look great in shorts, and it's like, oh my God, look.
Will Howard's stud, man. He's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. No bias at all.
None at all.
No, the Ohio State flag back there. Brian Daboll has to progress this year. I'm not saying he has to win, but he can't be a top 5 pick again. If he's a top 5 pick again, Brian Daboll is going to be
in that division. You've got Jaden Daniels, the best rookie year of any quarterback in history.
Eagles, they're in the Super Bowl.
Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
You got Dallas, who you got to assume are going to be better next year.
Yeah. Did we not talk about their coach already?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did. You got to assume they're going to be better. I mean, it's a tough division to be in.
Yeah.
It really is. You got to show. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to make the playoffs this
They've
year.
got to get to 9 wins.
You got to get to 6 or 7 wins.
I think you've got to do better than that.
You got to show what you need to show is at the end of the year you're getting better. And they didn't do that this year at all.
Look, Brian Daboll would be a good coach on almost any other team.
Yeah, which is why he's still in New York.
He just hasn't been given any tools.
He hasn't.
Okay.
Got to show progression. Number 2 on my hot seat, Zach Taylor, Cincinnati Bengals. This year was unacceptable. He's given a break because Joe Burrow was hurt and then had an MVP season. If you're really looking statistics and what a player means to his team, Joe Burrow should win the MVP this year. He's not going to because they didn't make playoffs. But really, Joe Burrow was the best quarterback in the league this year. He beat people in yards, touchdowns, in pretty much every statistical category, and he really didn't play the first 3-4 weeks.
And here's the problem with Taylor, though. They still don't address – he's got the cheapest owner in football.
He does.
They don't have an offensive line that can protect Burrow the way he needs to be protected.
I mean, the defense is what killed him this year.
Yeah, well, case in point, he's got to have the players, but when you've got the cheapest owner – I mean, my God, are they still practicing outside on Lake Erie?
No, they built a dome next to the stadium. They have an indoor facility. I mean, it's a bubble dome. I've seen it.
It's a bubble dome. They popped it up and they put space heaters in there to keep it warm.
It's better than what they had. Not only were they practicing outside, they were practicing outside underneath the interstate.
This guy that owns the Bengals is a billionaire.
Yeah.
I get it that his dad was the iconic Paul Brown. He founded the team, whatever.
He did.
He's the next guy that should be forced to sell.
Probably. But they got to a Super Bowl with them. Zach Taylor needs to show, again, you need to be in the AFC Championship next year if you're Zach Taylor. If you are not in the AFC Championship next year, gone. They're going to move on to a different coach. I don't think for him to save his job at this point, it's enough to just get to the playoffs.
Okay.
You can't just be a 7th seed. You have to win. You have to make an AFC championship.
And you want a drum roll for the number 1 on your list?
Let's see what you got. Number 1 on my list, Brian Schottenheimer of the Dallas Cowboys. He is on such a hot seat already. This was a panic hire by Jerry Jones. If he does not come in and win, if they do not make the playoffs this year, it's one and done for Brian Schottenheimer.
The Antonio Pierce treatment.
It is 100%. This is not something that will last if they don't come in and win right away. Now, a good thing for Brian Schottenheimer is Dak Prescott was at the press conference where he was announced.
It's because Dak Prescott is a good leader and he's a good team guy.
Yeah, but him being there,
he's the next Tony Romo.
When do you ever see a quarterback at a press conference announcing a new head coach? You don't. It doesn't happen ever. So the fact that he was there is a good sign. They're going to get along. We'll see what happens. If they do not win, and especially if they're a top 10 pick next year, Schottenheimer, he's out.
This is the same Dak that came out and said they should keep Mike McCarthy because they had a great relationship and he was such a good play caller.
Yeah, but what are you going to do?
I'm just saying.
He's gone. There's nothing you can do. You got a head coach you get along with. It's cool.
Okay, your list is incomplete.
My list is perfect.
No, it's not. You forgot the biggest hot seat of them all.
All right, honorable mention.
No, number 1, Sean McDermott.
Of Buffalo?
Of Buffalo. He's had the same MVP caliber quarterback for 5 years, and they got there once. They've never got to the promised land with the wins. They can't beat Kansas City.
They've been in AFC championships nonstop.
And they lose. And they lose. And they lose.
Well,
and if they don't win with Josh Allen again, tell me the last coach that worked with the same quarterback it'll be 6 years then, and in the 6th or 7th year got over the top. Doesn't happen. I can think of one.
Who?
It was actually, it's credit to you, Andy Reid with Donovan McNabb, but you've had the greatest coach of all time in Andy Reid, so you're going to have extra patience. This guy hasn't won, and the way they lost, take the refereeing out of it, because there were 2 incredibly bad calls.
Can we talk about that now?
I just think that McDermott is definitely on the hottest seat of all because he knows he's got to get past the Chiefs somehow.
He has to figure out a way to get past the Chiefs. It won't be a problem next year. The refs won't be as much on their side.
His only prayer is if Andy Reid retires.
Well, that's not true. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift need to break up because then
the NFL
won't be there anymore.
The NFL won't allow that.
Or Travis Kelce. I could see Travis Kelce honestly retiring it this year. Problem solved. Can we talk about that now?
Do we have to?
Can we talk about last week's games?
Sure.
Do you believe me now?
Yeah, I didn't think Washington had. I wanted them to win, but Philadelphia was clearly the better team.
Yeah.
And they just dominated.
Right.
So well done, Eagles.
Yep.
I don't want to talk about the other
Can we
game.
talk about the other game?
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do. Because.
Okay, conspiracy theory. Well, I will say there is one conspiracy theory. The logo for the Super Bowl, red and green. If you're going by that conspiracy theory, the NFL had this set up for the Chiefs and the Eagles to be there, and guess what happened? They're both there.
It wasn't true last year, but they had to mask it. You have to believe me now about the refs setting this up for Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl. It'll be a fair refereed game in the Super Bowl now because they got what they want. The ratings were so high last year with Taylor Swift being in the Super Bowl.
They were high this Sunday with Taylor Swift there.
Yes, exactly.
So
they want to keep going with those ratings, but how it was challenged. So let's talk about that.
Are we talking about the catch that wasn't catch?
Wasn't a catch.
It was an incomplete pass.
It was an interception, if anything, but it was definitely an incomplete pass. There was visual evidence that the ball not only hit the ground, but didn't have control over the ball as it hit the ground. And it was challenged. They looked at it 50 times and didn't overturn it, giving the ball to the Chiefs. If that was never a catch.
No.
Never. It was an interception at one point.
At one point, but it didn't end up that way.
And then it wasn't an interception. It was an incomplete pass. The one option that it was not was a catch.
Right.
That was the only thing out of all the options you had to call was Xavier Worthy didn't catch that ball.
And as bad as that call was, I think the fact that Josh Allen clearly got the first down and was ruled that he didn't get the first down, maybe even more egregious.
Do you believe me now?
There were two really bad calls. Really
It's been this way
bad.
all year for the Chiefs. It's been this way all year for the Chiefs.
It couldn't be that they've just got the single greatest quarterback to ever play the game as their quarterback.
They do.
And the best head coach.
They do.
They are passing Brady and Belichick by miles.
They're getting there.
They're getting there.
But come on, dude.
If they win 3 in a row, they will not be the first team to win 3 in a row.
They'd be the first team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, not 3 championships.
They didn't have the Super Bowl when the Packers won.
The Browns won 5 in a row.
They did, actually.
Yeah. See? So,
anyways.
You have to be with me now. That was the worst called game in the history of AFC, NFC championship games.
It was officiated okay, except for 2 really bad calls.
And it's 2 bad calls that make the difference. They found their opportunities to say, hey, this is where we can help the Chiefs. Roger Goodell, we need the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We need Tay Swift in the stands of the Super Bowl cheering on the Chiefs.
Tay Swift?
That's all I got.
Wow. Okay, I will say, in defense of the referees and of the NFL, Josh Allen...
Not gonna
remember. You're going to be okay? Josh Allen completely blew that last play.
Sure.
And give credit to
Steve Spagnuolo.
Steve Spagnuolo, thank you, for coming up with a blitz that they didn't see. It was a different look. Josh Allen still should have seen that because he stacked the wide receivers on the one side and he only had one wide receiver to the right.
He's sitting there saying the refs are going to screw me over on this anyway.
Really?
What am I going to do? And Dalton Kincaid should have caught that ball.
He should have caught the ball.
But you notice, but it doesn't even matter because they threw a flag for holding on Buffalo that they picked up after it was incomplete. So we can talk about Josh Allen panicking all we want. The fact of the matter is a flag was thrown on that play for holding on the Bills that was then picked up.
It would have been picked up.
The only reason it was picked up is because it was incomplete and the game was over. They knew the Chiefs were going to decline it.
Really?
Yeah, there was a flag thrown on that play. So we can talk about Josh Allen doing whatever. He saw the flag thrown. It didn't make a difference. They had already thrown the flag to make sure that that play didn't count. They get the first down, it doesn't make a difference. They're going to move him back 10 yards.
I'm not.
It happened. Go watch it. There was a flag thrown.
I don't want to buy into a conspiracy theory that the NFL set this up.
It's not buying into a conspiracy theory if it's true. There's evidence. This is the problem with football now. You have to question this. Those were terrible. There's no excuse for calling that a catch. There was one thing it couldn't have been, and that was a catch by the Chiefs.
I have a hard time believing Andy Reid wouldn't look at the NFL and go, don't help my games.
Why?
Because Andy Reid is a stand-up guy.
You're winning.
Doesn't matter. You know Andy Reid as well from the outside as well as I do. He wouldn't.
I don't know him
win
personally.
From everything I've ever heard about him, he's an old-time football coach. He wants to win the right way.
Sure. Which is great. Refs are still I'm not saying Andy Reid's paying off the refs. I'm saying Mr. Goodell making phone calls to make sure
he's been accused of
Taylor
this.
Swift is in the Super Bowl.
He's been accused of this since Tom Brady and before.
And it's true. What's one thing Roger Goodell has been great at?
Making sure the right teams get the Super Bowl?
Making money.
Yes.
He
makes
sees
a lot
the
of
revenue opportunities, and he takes advantage of them. That's why he's been the commissioner for as long as he has. It's an opportunity to make money. I'm sorry, the fourth down was got, but it was questionable enough where...
No, that wasn't questionable enough. He was over a half yard over the line.
Yeah, the ball also hit the ground, clearly, and it was challenged. It was looked at from New York and then challenged by Buffalo. I don't know how they got that wrong unless you're getting a call from New York saying that's a catch.
Well, that's where it came from.
Right. Same with that fourth down. Because it's a turnover, so it's reviewed.
There's calls already for football to put some kind of...
So you say Sean McDermott should be fired. They should be in the Super Bowl right now.
Not necessarily.
Dude, you can't deny this anymore.
They are calling for putting it some kind of, like tennis has Hawkeye, where you can check the marks and see if it was in or not.
Yeah.
They're calling for that in football already. They've been calling for it for a couple of years now. But that one, he had the first down. I mean, and the pass was incomplete. The Chiefs should not have the ball at the 5-yard line. This shouldn't have happened.
This was set up. This was set up to make sure the Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl.
I'm not going to participate. We're better than that. I'm not going to say it was a conspiracy theory.
I'm not better than this at all because you're ruining the watching experience for football. As soon as that was called a catch, I'm like, oh, this is over. They're not going to let Buffalo win. And they didn't. They didn't let Buffalo win. You had 2 calls in the game that would have changed the course of that game. And again, on that last play, there was a flag thrown anyway. Within 2 minutes, you're throwing a flag for holding? And then all of a sudden, magically, it's picked up?
Well, like
when the play is incomplete? Like, they had it ready to go. They knew that they were going to call it. And holding on what? There were 2 guys in Josh Allen's face.
Right.
But there's a flag thrown. You can see it on the field. They weren't going to let that be complete no matter what. Kincaid makes that catch. There's a penalty. You're going back 10 more yards. You're screwing over the Bills. I mean, that was just, they were never going to let the Bills win. I don't like being this person.
That would have been a worse look than having the incomplete pass.
They had it ready to go.
I know, but that would have been a terrible look because if you call a holding play on that against the Bills at that point of the game, oh my God, then everybody's going to be calling it a conspiracy.
Everybody's calling it now. It's not a conspiracy. You can't even call it it's more of a conspiracy to think the NFL didn't get involved in this game.
And it's
it's obvious and it's not fun to watch. I'm not even excited to watch the Super Bowl because it'll be the first fair game called for the Chiefs because again, they don't care if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl or not. They just wanted to get the Chiefs to the Super Bowl.
Taylor Swift will be on TV 15 times that day.
It's not even enjoyable this year to watch. And I hate it because I like Patrick Mahomes.
I do too.
I love Andy Reid, but I find myself rooting against an entire organization to no fault of their own. But the NFL swayed this completely. They should have started the season 0-4, but there were questionable calls or no calls in each of those games. And then you look at the AFC Championship. Dude, come on. How can you not sit here and say, oh, the NFL just swayed this? Because, again, that catch, there's one thing it couldn't have been.
I mean, maybe people will blow me up on our comments this time. I don't want to let my mind go there, even though all the evidence is pointing there.
I'm there. This isn't a conspiracy. This is as much of a conspiracy.
It's professional wrestling.
How can you not think? I don't think they did it for any other team. It was just the Chiefs. They were they wanted Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl again. The ratings were through the roof last year.
And what they get an extra, they figured 30 million views.
Right. And they're going to get him again this year.
If you're, okay, let me ask you that then. If you're a 13, 14-year-old girl and you'll get Taylor Swift for what, 5 or 6 times for a second each, that you're really going to watch a football game because of that?
Taylor Swift fans are insane, man. It's a freaking cult. It's crazy.
Maybe it is. I mean,
don't forget,
I've never raised a Swiftie, so I don't know.
This woman convinced a bunch of people to rebuy her music that she released because somebody bought her dad's record label company. And I mean, you could go all through it. I mean, it's crazy.
She's insanely talented. I'm not taking that away from her. I don't want to see her, but then again, I know why the NFL does.
I want to watch football.
Yeah.
And I don't like, and it's not Taylor Swift's fault. I want to make this very clear. She's very popular. She's the most popular artist in the world.
Obviously.
And that's not good for her.
Her and Kelsey have been together now for how long?
I don't know, and I don't care.
At least 2 years. Seems to be real. Good for them.
I just want to watch football. Yes. NFL wants ratings. I want football. NFL wins because they get ratings, and they screw over the Bills. They screwed over the Bills through and through. They made sure the Bills lost that game. And I'm sick and tired of it. It's not fun to watch. This is as much of a conspiracy as a conspiracy that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Which didn't happen, and hopefully those records will be released soon.
I would laugh, by the way, and then we'll move on, if they release the records and the records show Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. That would be the funniest thing in the world.
It's going to show the CIA did it.
No, it's going to show Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Well, that's what the records are going to show.
And I'm still not going to believe it.
Right.
Because
they're going to release the records, and it's going to say the magic bullet theory is real. They're going to be like, magic dust exists. We've known this for 2,000 years.
No, because LBJ somehow was the spinner of the web.
Yeah.
He's in Texas. He owned Texas.
Roger Goodell is when it comes to football. You proved my point. Thank you.
He's an evil genius. Okay. Let's move on.
What you got? Before we move on, you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
Do you know how hard it is to bring words back as they're coming out? It's not easy.
I haven't been doing it this year as much. I got to get back in the habit.
All right. I think of the things we've got left on our list, I really want to talk about the Bears' new head coach. Ben Johnson, introduced. Compliments Campbell, obviously. Compliments Kevin O'Connell. Comes out and says, but I really enjoy beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. Why do the Bears, and this happens with every single Bears introduction of a head coach.
Smith did it. I think Eberflus did it.
Eberflus did it too. It's never about, we've got to get this team to the Super Bowl. We've got to build on our program. They're always talking about the Packers. It's like the only goal in life is to beat the Packers, which I'm glad we own that kind of headspace down in Hallis Hall. But
you got to get to that step first. You got to get past the Packers first.
They did the last season because of...
Yeah, they beat us twice last year. I mean, that block kick should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. Got to give them props where props are due. I don't understand it. I mean, no Packer head coach comes in and says, hey, I look forward to beating the Bears.
Well, it's because the expectation of any Packer head coach is to get to the Super Bowl.
Right. That's what it is. It's different expectations.
Dan Campbell never shouted out anybody else.
Nope.
Kevin O'Connell didn't shout out the Packers, and the Vikings and Packers are just as big a rivals. Not as
We're in
long
their
a
heads,
rivals.
man. We own them.
We do.
Packers own the Bears. Not this past year, though. They got their lease back.
They got their first win in 7 years this year.
I mean, I don't know what the obsession is. I don't know why especially singling out Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
That was weird.
And LaFleur came out and said he knows nothing of Ben Johnson, never had a conversation with him.
Yeah. I don't understand why you want to start something like that for no reason.
Exactly.
I get you're trying to fire up the rivalry here. It's like you should stop picking out of the top 10 first.
The only other time I've ever seen this happen, and it was with the Packers, when Forrest Gregg came and was a head coach. He was all about being Ditka, and he ended up having the ugliest play in the history of the NFL with Charles Martin. I mean, I just don't – you can't let anybody occupy that much venom.
No, your goal is to win a Super Bowl, not to beat a single team. I'll lose to the Bears twice if we win a Super Bowl. I really don't care.
Well, if we do, then we'll lose to everybody in the division twice.
I mean, Ohio State lost to Michigan. We won a national championship. I'm as happy as can be.
You wanted to fire Ryan.
I apologize for that already.
Yeah, I know. Okay, my next question, real quickly. Aaron Rodgers hasn't made a decision yet.
He's not going to be a Jet next year.
Aaron Glenn has said he's open to him coming back. That's about as backhanded a compliment as you can get. Yeah, maybe.
The reason he's saying that is because, like, listen, Rodgers, if you want to come back, you're playing by our rules. This isn't Aaron Rodgers land. The wrong expectation was, I actually really appreciate Glenn doing that. And even if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I appreciate him doing this because the expectation for him to the Jets that was set was this is your team.
Right.
We're going to run things your way. And Glenn came in and said, not happening, man.
Saleh regretted that the second he did it.
Yeah.
He was hamstrung the moment that it came out.
He was. You're at the mercy of your quarterback. And Glenn's sitting here saying, I'm going to run the team the way I know how to run the team to win. I'm not going to be hamstrung by my quarterback. My quarterback's playing for my team. I'm not coaching for his team. And so that's all he said. He said, yeah, we're open to him having him back. That's not backhanded. That's simply saying this is my team, not his.
And you will be here for mini camps and the start of
Correct.
training camp.
Or I'll bench you. You can be my backup. You can be the most expensive backup I've ever had. I mean, that's all that was. And I loved it. I was like, this is great. As big of a Rodgers fan as I am, I got my little Rodgers bobblehead out here now. You can't let your quarterback run your team like you did, because what happened? You ended up 4-12 and a head coach was fired.
Well, yeah, and when you look at when Rodgers got there, he brought half the Packers' elderly players over with him.
And got them paid.
And how'd that work out?
Not well.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't let a quarterback run a team.
Here's the thing.
Proof right there.
If Rodgers stays in New York, Devontae Adams stays in New York. If Rodgers is gone, Devontae or Garrett Wilson will be gone.
Either Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson are gone at the beginning of this year. Devontae Adams not staying in New York. It's not going to happen.
Even if Rodgers stays?
If Rodgers stays, he stays, but then Garrett Wilson is gone.
Right.
Garrett Wilson was wasted talent last year.
You know what it reminded me of? And this was before your time, but we had James Lofton, and John Jefferson came over to the Packers towards the end of his career from the Chargers. He was part of Air Coryell and a very big cog in Air Coryell. He was nothing but a decoy. They never threw him the ball. I mean, it just was like we're all watching this going, Jefferson, he's open. But everything went to Lofton. He's a Hall of Famer, obviously.
Right.
But it's the same type of thing. Wilson was woefully underused, but then again, I'm sure Rodgers didn't work with him like he would have worked with players back when he was a rookie quarterback.
He did not. I mean, this is Rodgers wanting to play. It's Favre at the end of his career. I don't want to do training camp. I just want to show up and play.
Yeah, I don't want to watch all this film. I like to play on Sundays.
Right. That's all this is. It's a quarterback that says, yeah, I want to be there on Sundays. I don't want to do the rest of this, which you hear from every NFL player towards the end of their career.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't want to do this. And you hear it early in their career. I'm sure they hate practice.
Yeah, but quarterbacks especially, they have to study so much more film. They're the first ones there, they're the last ones to leave.
Yeah. And Rodgers has to decide, if you don't want to do that, then walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Then end your career. That's fine. But if you want to do this, you can't hamstring an organization like that. I can see Aaron Rodgers showing up day one of training camp, being like, I'm retired, pulling a Favre. I'm retired. Here I am, day one. Now you got to put me where I want to go.
Boy, I hope he doesn't do that. And if he does, I hope Aaron Glenn says, you're my backup.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do, because I think
that's what will happen.
That's what he's going to have to do.
And Aaron Glenn saying what he did when asked that question sets that up. It was the perfect thing to say. Listen, if he wants to come and show up, then he's going to show up. But he's going to do this my way. I'm not doing anything his way. It was the perfect thing to say. Great job, Aaron Glenn.
Yeah,
I think he's going to do well there. I really do.
Okay, that's relative. Any Jets coach that wins a few games has done well there.
As long as they're not a top 10 pick, they're a great Jets quarterback or head coach.
They're going to need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback. I don't know if they're going to find one in this draft. Again, I think this year's draft is going to be very, when it comes to quarterbacks at least, there's going to be a ton going in the second and third round.
It's a very weak quarterback draft. You got Shador. Some people think Cam Ward's going to go in the first round.
Those are your first round picks.
I mean, Will Howard, as much as you like him, I just see another Ohio State bust in the NFL.
I like Will Howard. I like Dart from Ole Miss. I've always liked him. Those are the two guys I think, if I have to pick quarterbacks that I think are going to do well, besides Shador will do well. I don't know what his ceiling is.
It's going to depend on who coaches him.
It does.
It's a big part of this.
Cam Ward floats the ball too much. I mean, he floats the ball and it sinks, which is cool to watch. He's very athletic. Those floaters that he got away with in Miami, he's not going to get away with in the NFL.
Here's the thing about Shador that I know for a fact. Like Jaden Daniels, his work ethic is off the charts.
Yeah.
He's going to do the study. He's going to know the players. He's going to work with them. He's going to be committed from day one.
He also is in a position where he gets to choose where he goes. To a point.
To a point. I don't think he'll want to go to Tennessee. If I'm Tennessee, I'm grabbing him.
I could see maybe New York taking him at 3 because you're going to be able to be really creative. I don't know where else he'd go, though.
Cleveland?
He's not going to Cleveland. I can tell you right now, he's not going to Cleveland at 2. He's not going to play there. Why would he? Cleveland is where quarterbacks go to die.
Except for the fact that they do have a good coach.
They do.
They do have talent.
They do.
And I think you put a good quarterback there. What's his name last year?
Jameis Winston?
No.
Yeah, one good game.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. They didn't have anybody else last year.
No. I just think
they had Flacco a couple years ago.
There you go. That's who I was thinking of. Flacco was there a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And won. So, I mean, they've got the core there, and I think Stefanski is a great coach. And if he leaves Cleveland, somebody's going to get a steal with him. He'll do very well.
100%. I think the same thing with Daboll. They can go, as long as they can pick the organizations they want to go to. The problem is when you go to any organization that just fired their coach, it's a dumpster fire.
Let me ask you this.
So you got to rebuild.
Considering you have them back-to-back on your list, if Stefanski and LaFleur are fired this time next year, would you hire Stefanski?
In 2 seconds flat.
I would too.
I'd hire Daboll. I'd hire Stefanski. I mean, it would be a no-brainer to bring one of those guys in. I'm ready to move on from LaFleur. I really am. He hasn't been a good coach.
He's been there 7 years. He's gotten to some NFC championship games, but
he choked in both of them.
His in-game coaching has just not been good.
Can't adjust, and winners adjust.
Right.
And he does not. You create great game plans, but when they don't work out, you know the game's over in the first quarter. You know you've lost. Unless all of a sudden, like in the Vikings game last year, Love starts just pulling stuff out of his back end and making incredible plays.
The biggest thing for LaFleur next year, and then we'll get off the Packers and end the show, Love has got to take a massive step forward.
Yes, he does.
He's got to cut down on the mistakes. He's got to lead the wide receivers much better than he did. And he's got to run a little bit.
He does. You know, I'm not worried about it. All you need is love. You and I have had a great show. As you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your dad without your father getting the last word. So it is all you.
So we're going to talk about coaching a little bit because the right head coach can set your franchise up for years and years and years. You look at the Cowboys back when they started. They had Tom Landry. He was there for 29 years and a lot of Super Bowls. But today was the day that the Packers hired Vince Lombardi and turned their fortunes around for the next 11 years that he was there, 9 years he was there, won 5 championships in 7 years. And Green Bay was known as Title Town from then on, and the Packers are known as an iconic franchise. Yes, they went down in the tank, but when Ron Wolf came in, they were able to turn it around, and the Packers have been one of the winningest franchises since 1992 or 3, whenever Favre got there. That can happen to any one of these teams who hired a new coach, with the exception of the Cowboys. But you've got to take the time to hire the right one, give them the tools to be there. Will Ben Johnson be the guy that can get Caleb Williams to turn around? You don't know. But for every team that gets a new coach, it's a breath of fresh air, and it's a chance to do something great with your franchise. It's going to be interesting to find out if Pete Carroll is going to do that in Vegas, or if any of these other coaches are able to take their teams from being in a dumpster fire to glory land.
Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.